Have you ever encountered a stranger who felt so eerily familiar that you believed your souls had been carved from the very same piece of ancient, weathered starlight? That sudden explosion of chemistry is rarely a divine sign of destiny, but rather a sharp warning that you have walked into a hall of mirrors designed just for you. You feel seen for the very first time in your life, yet you fail to realize that what you are looking at is not a human, but a psychological weapon. This is the mirror trap, a sophisticated technique of dark psychology where a predator reflects your own desires, pains, and identity back to you until you are completely blind. They do not love you for who you are. They are simply wearing your own face as a mask to gain total entry into the most private chambers of your soul. Look closely at how they agree with every niche opinion you hold, how they share every trauma you mention, and how they become the perfect answer to your prayers. You think you have finally found your soulmate, but in reality, you are falling in love with a curated projection of yourself that is being used to enslave you. We often mistake this absolute lack of friction for true connection, forgetting that real human beings are complex, different, and possess their own distinct, unpolished edges. When someone becomes a perfect reflection of your internal world, they are not connecting with you. They are infiltrating your psychological defenses by bypassing your natural sense of caution. The predator understands that the fastest way to lower a person's guard is to make them feel understood in a way that no one else has ever dared to try. You are starving for validation, and they are providing a feast of your own words, served back to you on a silver platter of false empathy and manufactured fate. Under the influence of this mirroring, your brain releases a flood of dopamine that acts like a chemical veil, preventing you from seeing the void behind their eyes. They watch your micro-expressions. They listen to the rhythm of your breath, and they adjust their personality in real time to match the frequency of your deepest insecurities. If you mention a love for old books, they suddenly recall a childhood spent in libraries. If you speak of betrayal, they claim to be the only person who is loyal. This is not a coincidence or a cosmic alignment, but a calculated data-gathering mission where your own vulnerability is being harvested to build a prison for your heart. Carl Jung once suggested that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, but the opposite is also dangerously true. The things we find most attractive in a perfect stranger are often the very parts of our own shadow that we have failed to integrate or claim for ourselves. You are projecting your own light onto a dark canvas, and because the canvas is empty, it reflects your light back so brilliantly that you are blinded by it. The manipulator is a hollow vessel, a person without a core identity who survives by consuming the personas of those they wish to dominate and eventually discard. Notice how the relationship moves at a terrifying speed, skipping the healthy stages of doubt and discovery to jump straight into a state of total, obsessive devotion. They use love bombing as a smokescreen, saturating your senses with affection so that you cannot hear the quiet alarm bells ringing in the back of your mind. Every "me too" and every "I feel exactly the same way" is a brick being laid in a wall that will eventually cut you off from the outside world. By becoming your mirror, they become your world, making it feel as though losing them would be equivalent to losing your own reflection or your very sanity. This is the ultimate power move. They make themselves indispensable by convincing you that only they truly see the real you that the rest of the world ignores. But ask yourself this: if they are exactly like you, then who is actually leading the relationship? And where is the space for a second, independent human soul? True intimacy requires the presence of two distinct individuals, but the mirror trap relies on the total erasure of the other person's boundaries and unique personal history. When the mirror eventually cracks, and it always does, you will find yourself standing in front of a stranger who no longer recognizes the person they pretended to be. The shift is sudden and brutal. The mask falls, and the soulmate who once worshipped you becomes a cold judge who views your needs as an unbearable burden. They stop mirroring your light and begin mirroring your darkest fears, using the secrets you gave them during the perfect phase to systematically dismantle your self-esteem. The very traits they once praised as unique and beautiful are now weaponized against you, described as unstable, demanding, or pathetic in the heat of a calculated argument. You find yourself chasing the ghost of the person they used to be, not realizing that the person you loved never actually existed outside of your own imagination. You are trapped in a cycle of trying to fix the mirror, hoping that if you act better or give more, the perfect reflection will finally return to you. But you cannot repair a shadow, and you cannot find warmth in a person whose entire personality was a strategic imitation designed to exploit your hunger for love. This is the moment of the discard, where the predator finds a new subject to mirror and leaves you wondering how you could have been so incredibly wrong. The shame you feel is not a sign of your weakness, but a byproduct of having your most sacred vulnerabilities used as a roadmap for your own psychological destruction. We must learn to recognize that true connection is built on the slow, sometimes difficult process of navigating differences, not the instant gratification of perfect similarity. Healthy love feels like a conversation between two different instruments, creating a harmony that is greater than the sum of its parts, rather than a single note. If someone seems too perfect to be true, it is usually because they are performing a role that they have practiced many times on many different, unsuspecting stages. To escape the mirror trap, you must first reclaim your own shadow and stop looking for someone else to carry the parts of yourself you are afraid to own. When you are whole within yourself, you no longer need a mirror to tell you who you are, and the predator's reflection will lose its hypnotic power over you. Watch for the inconsistencies. The mirrorer cannot maintain the act forever, and small cracks in their story will eventually reveal the darkness that lies beneath the surface. A person who truly loves you will challenge you, disagree with you, and show you parts of themselves that are messy, confusing, and entirely different from your own. They will not agree with every word you say, because they have a mind of their own, and they respect you enough to let you see their true perspective. The mirror trap thrives on your isolation, so maintain your connections with friends and family who knew you long before this perfect stranger entered your life. Listen to the people who love the version of you that isn't performing, as they are the ones who can see when you are being pulled into a delusion. Your intuition is a biological radar for deception. If your gut feels tight while your mind feels elated, trust the body over the stories being told to you. We often ignore the physical tension of a perfect romance because we have been conditioned to believe that high anxiety is the same thing as passionate love. In reality, peace is the hallmark of a healthy connection. While the mirror trap feels like a high-stakes game where you are always one step away from falling, the goal of the manipulator is to make you doubt your own perception so that they can replace your reality with the one they have manufactured for their benefit. By understanding the mechanics of mirroring, you take back the chia-kua to your soul and ensure that no one can ever occupy your inner throne again. You are not a void to be filled, but a kingdom to be governed, and you must be the only sovereign who decides who is worthy of entering your gates. Do not be afraid of the silence or the periods of being alone, for it is in these moments that you strengthen the boundaries that protect your true essence. The predator looks for the hungry heart, the one that is willing to overlook red flags in exchange for the promise of being finally and completely understood. Feed your own soul first, so that when a stranger offers you a reflection of your desires, you can look at it with the critical eye of a connoisseur. Awareness is the only antidote to psychological manipulation. Once you see the mechanism of the mirror, the reflection can no longer hold your gaze or your heart. You are far more complex than any mirror could ever capture, and your value does not depend on how perfectly someone else can mimic your favorite traits. Let the soulmate myth die so that real, grounded, and enduring love can finally have the space to grow in the fertile soil of reality and truth. Machiavelli once noted that it is more important to seem virtuous than to actually be so, and the modern mirrorer is a master of this ancient, deceptive art. They wear the virtue of empathy like a designer coat, shedding it the moment they step out of the spotlight and back into their own cold, private reality. If you feel like you are being hunted by kindness, pay attention to the direction of the wind, for the scent of a predator is often hidden in perfume. Your wounds are yours to heal, and anyone who offers to take them away instantly is usually looking for a way to use those wounds as handles to control you. Respect the time it takes to truly know a person, and refuse to be rushed into a level of intimacy that hasn't been earned through shared history and trial. The mirror trap is a shortcut to your heart, but shortcuts usually lead to dead ends or dangerous precipices that you weren't prepared to navigate alone. Stand tall in your own individuality and celebrate the moments where you and your partner disagree, for those are the moments where real connection is actually tested. You deserve a love that sees your flaws and stays, not a love that copies your flaws and calls it a twin flame connection or a destiny. Breaking free from a mirrorer is like waking up from a deep, on drug-induced sleep. The world may seem gray at first, but it is real, and it is finally yours. Rebuild your identity from the ground up, using the bricks of your own values rather than the reflections of someone else's manufactured and temporary personality. The throne of your mind has been occupied by an intruder for too long, and it is time for you to reclaim the crown and the scepter of your own agency. You are the architect of your own meaning, and you do not need a psychological parasite to tell you that your life is beautiful or that you are worthy. Look into a real mirror today and see the person who has survived every betrayal, every lie, and every trap. That is the only person you truly need. The mirror trap only works if you are looking outward for salvation. So turn your gaze inward and find the light that doesn't need a reflection to shine. You will notice that as your self-worth grows, the people who rely on mirroring will naturally drift away, unable to find a hook in your solid, grounded presence. They seek the porous and the uncertain, but they are repelled by the person who knows their own worth and refuses to trade it for a cheap imitation. This is not about becoming cold or cynical, but about becoming discerning and protective of the sacred space that exists between your thoughts and your actions. Let the pain of the past be the fire that forges a stronger shield, ensuring that the next time someone reflects you, you see right through the glass. We are often taught that love is a loss of self, but true love is actually a profound finding of the self through the eyes of a different, honest other. The manipulator wants to merge with you until there is no you left, only a blurred mess of their control and your compliance under their watchful eye. Re-establish your rangyoi with the strength of a fortress, and do not let anyone in who refuses to show you their own authentic, unmirrored, and imperfect heart. Every time you say no to a perfect-looking lie, you are saying yes to the possibility of a real, messy, and beautiful human life that is entirely your own. The shadow work of recognizing your own hunger for validation is the most important labor you will ever perform in the service of your personal freedom. Why do you need them to be just like you in order to feel safe? And what part of your own difference are you so deeply afraid to face alone? Answer these questions, and the mirror trap will become a relic of your past, a lesson learned in the dark that now guides you toward the light of truth. The predator's greatest fear is a person who is comfortable in their own skin, because such a person is impossible to mirror and even harder to manipulate. You have the power to walk away from the Hall of Mirrors at any time, even if the exit seems narrow and the path ahead looks dark and uncertain. Trust that the light of your own consciousness is enough to guide you through the wreckage of a shattered delusion and back to the solid ground of reality. You are not broken because you were fooled. You were simply human, and your capacity for deep connection was exploited by someone who lacked that very capacity. Forgive yourself for the time you spent loving a reflection, and use that love to nourish the real person who is still standing here, ready to live again. The world is full of people who are not mirrors, but windows, people who allow you to see a different world than the one you already know and occupy. Seek out the windows, and let the mirrors gather dust in the corridors of history, where they can no longer do harm to your evolving and sacred soul. Every scar left by a manipulator is a map of where you were most vulnerable, and now that the wounds are closed, you are stronger in those broken places. You no longer need to perform. You no longer need to match someone else's rhythm. And you no longer need to be anything other than your own authentic self. The mirror trap is a sophisticated weapon, but your awareness is an even more powerful shield that can deflect any psychological arrow aimed at your heart. Take a deep breath and feel the weight of your own body, the reality of your own breath, and the sovereignty of your own mind in this present moment. The manipulator has left the building, but you are still here, and you have inherited all the wisdom that was hidden within the pain of their brief presence. Use this wisdom to build a life that is so authentic and so grounded that a mirror would crack just trying to reflect the intensity of your true being. You are the master of your own narrative, and the chapter of the mirror trap is now over, making way for a story of resilience and self-discovery. Do not let the fear of being tricked again prevent you from opening up to the right people, for that would be the final victory of the predator. Instead, open up with caution, with boundaries, and with the understanding that real trust is a slow-growing tree, not a sudden flash of lightning in the dark. Honor your own process, and do not let anyone, including yourself, rush you into healing faster than your soul is naturally prepared to move through the grief. The transition from victim to sovereign is not an overnight event, but a daily choice to value your own reality over the seductive illusions offered by others. Remember that the most beautiful things in life are often the ones that are slightly flawed, a little bit difficult, and entirely unique to their own nature. You are one of those beautiful, flawed things, and you do not need to be reflected perfectly to be seen as the masterpiece that you already truly are. The trap has failed because you are now looking at the mechanism instead of the image, and in that gaze, you have finally found your true liberation. Keep your rangyoi firm, your eyes open, and your heart protected by the wisdom of your own experiences as you navigate the complex world of others. You have regained your throne, and this time, the crown is not made of gold or starlight, but of the hard-won clarity of a soul that knows its worth. Walk forward into the world with the quiet confidence of someone who has survived the worst of the psychological wars and emerged with their spirit intact. The mirrors may still be there, hanging on the walls of the world, but they are now just glass and silver, incapable of stealing your sense of self again. You are free to be different, free to be misunderstood, and free to be loved for the real person you are, rather than the reflection they want. Take care of your internal peace, nurture your own strength, and never apologize for the boundaries that keep your soul safe from the hungry and the hollow. Your journey is your own, and every step you take in truth is a step away from the traps of the past and toward a future of genuine connection. I wish you the strength to see clearly, the courage to stand alone when necessary, and the wisdom to know the difference between a mirror and a heart. If this message resonated with your soul, stay with us as we continue to explore the hidden depths of the human psyche and the path to true autonomy.